Let me ask you something real. Have you ever been sitting in a group, classroom, friend circle, family gathering, maybe even a group chat in real life, and you had something to say, something smart, something thoughtful, something that actually mattered, but you didn't say it? Not because you were scared exactly, not because you didn't know what to say, but because your brain said, wait, let's think this through. And while you were thinking, the moment passed. Someone else spoke. The topic moved on. And once again, you stayed silent. If that's you, I want you to hear this clearly from the start. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not broken, you're not weak, and you're definitely not empty-headed. In fact, the psychology behind people who prefer staying silent in group conversations is often the opposite of what people assume. Most people think silence means shyness, or insecurity, or lack of confidence. Or worse, they assume you don't have anything valuable to contribute. But in reality, people who stay silent in groups usually have too much going on inside their heads. They're observing, they're processing, they're reading the room, they're picking up on tone, facial expressions, energy shifts, unspoken rules. While some people speak to think, silent people think before they speak. And that difference changes everything. The problem is, the world doesn't reward depth by default. It rewards speed. Whoever speaks first often gets heard the most, even if what they're saying isn't that deep. And if you're someone whose brain likes to fully process before opening your mouth, you're already playing a different game. Here's what's usually happening in your mind during group conversations. Your brain is multitasking at a level most people don't notice. First, it's processing information deeply. You're not just hearing words. You're understanding meaning, context, implications. Second, your brain is simulating outcomes. If I say this, how will it land? Will people agree? Will it sound stupid? Will I be misunderstood? And third, your brain is protecting you from social risk. Humans are wired to avoid rejection, and speaking up is a social risk. So your mind hesitates, not because you're incapable, but because it's trying to keep you safe. That hesitation might only last a few seconds, but conversations don't wait. And the smarter and more self-aware you are, the longer that hesitation becomes. Think about school or college for a second. You're in class. The teacher asks a question. You know the answer. You actually understand the concept. You've done the reading, but your hand doesn't go up. Instead, your mind starts running scenarios. What if my answer isn't phrased well? What if someone laughs? What if the teacher asks a follow-up question and I freeze? What if I explain it badly and people judge me? And while your brain is doing all that, someone else raises their hand. Sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes their answer is half-baked. But they spoke, and you didn't. That moment creates a very specific kind of frustration. Not anger at others, but disappointment in yourself. And when that happens enough times, your brain starts learning a pattern. Silence feels safer. Silence avoids embarrassment. Silence avoids exposure. So silence becomes the default. This is where silence turns into a defense mechanism. A lot of quiet people aren't quiet by nature. They became quiet through experience. Maybe you were talked over growing up. Maybe when you spoke, no one really listened. Maybe you were once laughed at, dismissed, or made to feel stupid for expressing yourself. Or maybe you were praised for being mature, well-behaved, or quiet. And your brain learned that being low profile meant being accepted. Whatever the reason, your nervous system remembers social pain, and it adapts. Silence becomes armor. If you don't speak, you can't be judged, you can't be misunderstood, you can't be rejected, but you also can't be fully seen. Over time, this creates a loop that's hard to notice until you're stuck inside it. You stay quiet in groups. People start assuming you're passive or uninterested. They stop asking for your opinion. You feel invisible, even though you're paying the most attention. That invisibility hurts, so you withdraw more. And the quieter you become, the more people overlook you. Eventually, you start believing a lie that you're just not the talking type. But that's not the truth. The truth is, you're the thinking type, and thinking is powerful, but only when it's paired with expression. You might also notice that social situations drain you more than they drain others. Group conversations leave you tired, not physically, but mentally, and you might think that means you're antisocial or awkward. But what's actually happening is cognitive overload. While others talk freely, you're monitoring yourself. Monitoring others. Editing your thoughts before they leave your mouth. Replaying things you could have said. Analyzing reactions. That level of internal processing takes energy. Loud people release thoughts externally. Quiet people process them internally. Different wiring, same intelligence. But one gets noticed more easily. Now here's the part that's uncomfortable but important. Staying silent for too long has a cost. When you don't express yourself, people underestimate you. Opportunities pass you by. Your confidence slowly erodes. Not because you lack ability, but because you're not practicing using your voice. An expression, like any skill, weakens when it's not used. Over time, this can turn into self-doubt. You start questioning whether your thoughts even matter. And that's dangerous because they do, deeply. But value that stays locked inside your head doesn't change anything. So no, the solution isn't to suddenly become loud, dominant, or extroverted. That's not who you are. Enforcing that will only exhaust you. The real goal is strategic expression, learning how to speak without betraying your nature. The first shift is lowering the perfect thought standard. Your thoughts do not need to be fully polished to be valuable. You don't need the perfect sentence. You don't need the perfect timing. You can speak in drafts, saying things like, "I'm still thinking this through, but," or "This might not come out perfectly, but," gives your brain permission to speak without fear. It removes the pressure of being flawless. Another key change is speaking earlier, not better. Don't wait for the ideal moment in a conversation. Aim to say something small within the first 30 seconds. Even a simple reaction. Once your voice is heard, it becomes easier to use again. Silence makes the first word feel heavier than it actually is. Breaking that initial barrier matters more than saying something impressive. You don't need long explanations. You don't need speeches. You can react. You can ask questions. You can agree. You can clarify. These things count. They keep you engaged without draining you. Preparation also helps more than people realize. Before social situations, have one or two anchor thoughts in mind. Not scripts, just ideas. A topic from class, a video you watched, a question you're curious about. This reduces mental load in the moment. Instead of searching your entire mind for something to say, you already have an entry point, and the conversation flows from there naturally. But the biggest shift isn't behavioral, it's psychological. You have to reframe your silence. You're not quiet because you're weak. You're quiet because you're selective. You don't speak unless something feels meaningful, and that selectiveness is a strength when balanced with courage. The goal isn't to talk more, it's to trust your voice more, to believe that what you say doesn't have to be perfect to be worthwhile. So here's a small challenge. Try this tonight or tomorrow, just once. Say one thing you normally wouldn't. Not something impressive, not something smart, just something honest, even a sentence. That's how trust with yourself is built, not through confidence, but through action. And here's the truth I want you to walk away with. People who stay silent in groups aren't empty. They're full of thoughts, full of awareness, full of depth. But depth only matters when it's shared. You don't need to become louder to be seen. You don't need to change who you are. You just need to stop hiding your voice from the world. Because the right people don't need you to be louder. They need you to be you, out loud. Let's level up together, one sentence at a time.